CoFund-e-Fest. Hello, Zelda. Nice to hear you and be part of our meeting. Zelda is the Zoom lady who gives all these announcements. So I want to welcome you all again, and whoever might be watching this later, and really call in a culture of welcoming. Call in a culture of welcoming who we are in this moment, what we're bringing in this moment. For this closing call, closing ceremony and celebration of the Co-Creating Funding Ecosystems for Regeneration Festival, CoFund-e-Fest. It's really a delight to be here with you all. And we want to have several things happening in today's call. We'll have a little bit of exploration of where we have been. But we also want to look ahead, and this is not the end. This is just a portal. This is just opening the door wider to things that might emerge. So we will invite us to have conversations around how do we invite resources in? How do we invite money in? How do we invite conversations are regenerative for the projects and things that we love? And we'll have space for celebration. We'll have space for ritual. We have space for poetry. And I think that's all I'm going to say to start us off. I hope that's enough. I do want to acknowledge the qualities of the elements, acknowledging that we have, trying to burn my leg. Doesn't smell good. There you go. So many cultures joining in, and so many ways that humans, amongst many other beings, have been honoring spending time together. I love that notion that birds celebrate the arisal of the sun every day with their song. So I want to celebrate your presence here and all the things we have achieved by lighting a candle, an act that I remember even as a child, as making just a space, whatever space, into something special. Maybe we call it sacred, maybe we call it intimate, maybe we call it beautiful. So what qualities do you want to call in? Let's just murmur them to ourselves. Qualities of support that we want to have with us today. Call them in. Let them know that they are wanted. They might come, maybe not, but they might come. And I also want to honor water. And one of my teachers has brought me a tradition from Burkina Faso where they are so aware of the energies of modernity and how much fire do we have, how much things we burn. There is that sense of we burn the earth so that modernity can continue. So they always said, bring more water to your rituals, bring more water to your gatherings, bring at least 3 times more water than fire. I don't know what that means in terms of a candle and a jug, but I just want to invite that energy to flow. And for me, water has always been a really sacred element. And I love the fact that we make it in our bodies, and that doesn't make it less special for me. Water is being created in every cell by all organisms that live on this earth. All the time, there's new water emerging. And for me, that makes it all the more sacred. So inviting qualities of support that for you are associated with water to also be part of this gathering. And everything else that I can't mention is also welcome, welcoming the support of all our cultures, our teachers, our presence, our bodies. Thank you for being here. And thank you, Ben, for holding this with me. Over to you. No, over to me. Over to Vita and her sometimes scattered brain. I love that we were looking for poetry and before we met to design, we both had the same poem in mind. So I took it as a sign. And it's one that you might all have heard before, but it feels really apt. And it's called Start Close In by David White. Start close in. Don't take the second step or the third. Start with the first thing. Close in the step you don't want to take. Start with the ground you know, the pale ground beneath your feet, your own way to begin the conversation. Start with your own question. Give up on other people's questions. Don't let them smother something simple. To hear another's voice, follow your own voice. Wait until that voice becomes an intimate, private ear that can really listen to another. Start right now. Take a small step you can call your own. Don't follow someone else's heroics. Be humble and focused. Start close in. Don't mistake that other for your own. Start close in. Don't take the second step or the third. Start with the first thing. Close in the step you don't want to take. And as always, we want to start with a little bit of connecting. And Ben, if you can make groups of 3, I'm going to invite us to share for a short 1.5 minutes each, more or less, something that my hands, I mean, each of our hands, something that your hands have done or touched today, something that feels perhaps nourishing, that gives you a sense of something that feels important to you. My hands have touched, caressed, held this or that today. And we'll have, I think in total, 6 minutes or perfect. Something that your hands have done or touched today. Back. Welcome back to you and your hands and everything you're bringing with them. Ben.
I'm gonna take a little time now to kind of revisit and tell ourselves the story of CoFund-e-Fest. Um, so I'm gonna take us on a tour through the Miro board to do that. And Dita, if you want to jump in, or if anybody else does, I'm gonna try to do this in about 5 minutes though. Um, but if there's some brief thing that somebody wants to name as we do this. So we started with our opening ceremony around the fire, welcoming people in, asking what would make participating in this festival a regenerative experience and a valuable one for the community. And we heard many things. We asked, what abundance, gratitude, joy, and yearning are you bringing to the festival? People like this one. What was it? Someone harvesting all kinds of things that showed up there. And we did a little composting too. We asked about what doubts and concerns and rage and refusals are you bringing? And we heard some of those. we made some poems together, played a game, grabbing little bits of what was over there and weaving them together. Talked about needs and what surrogates are hiding or replacing your actual needs. And then we went into the node lab, this strange, jargony concept. And we talked about what node possibilities people might want to form or that already exist that we might want to support. We told a bit of a story about all of that. We had a trust conversation, and we also had the daily sensing conversations begin here. 5 of those. And then we had that amazing call on right relationship with these 3 beautiful people sharing their wisdom and their joy and their energy, transforming what we thought might have been a difficult and challenging conversation into something just delicious that is probably embodied in that image. And that spooky magic thing that happened as we were after the recording, we were just looking at the water through Quake's camera, and then all of a sudden this music just started playing. Yeah, so many of the beautiful co-sensing calls that we had at Dita too. We talked about the house that modernity built a little bit too. Some of the brokenness, the challenges that we face. We remembered a time when a struggle was successful in making real change. One of the most diverse groups of artists ever to assemble in a particular enterprise, playing a small role in that. Then we moved into the space of resourcing. How do we embody the resourcing ecosystems we wish to see in the world? We looked a little bit at the 3 horizons framework as a way to think about that. We named what some of the qualities are of a resourcing conversation, and later today we're going to practice having that conversation with each other. If we don't learn to call in the rain, to be the forest, our ecosystem won't thrive as much as it could. And we also talked about some doubts and reservations we had around this. And then we harvested some particular calls for resourcing that people on the call yesterday named. And we'll look at a few more of those as examples. And here we are now, going forth. And so we use the metaphor of a forest often to talk about what we're up to. And this idea that forests, a mature forest, a healthy forest, has the capacity to create its own rain, to call in moisture from outside its boundaries and to recycle moisture within its boundaries and to signal to the clouds overhead. Apparently, mushrooms have a lot to do with that. But what does it mean for us to embody a resourcing ecosystem, to be like a forest, to stop thinking of ourselves as individual trees or animals or rocks, but as part of this vast interconnected web that has the power to bring in resourcing and recycle it and hold it and store it and distribute it in all these complex ways? And we know the mushrooms play a key role, right? But it's actually not the mushrooms. Well, it is, but It's what's underneath the soil, right? The mycelium that gives birth to the mushrooms as the fruit of that mysterious set of interconnections that weave through the soil and connect to the roots of the trees and pass resourcing, nourishment, information all through the forest. So if we think of what we're doing here as being about weaving that web, that mycelial mat that's largely invisible, but what becomes visible are the mushrooms. And if we think of the mushrooms as the resourcing that we're calling in, how abundant a fruiting can we create? When it's time, these are honey mushrooms. And when it's time for them to emerge and the conditions are right here in the woods of Mohican lands, what's now known as New England, these things are in incredible abundance. They're everywhere. These beautiful big fruitings, and they're very easy to identify and delicious, actually. Um, and the other thing mushrooms do besides nourishing, right, is they send spores out into the world, billions of them. And so if we think of what we're doing here, in a small context, as also having the potential to to seed new mycelial mats of resourcing ecosystem capacity through the relational webs that we're a part of. So how do we build that mycelial mat that gives birth to these? It's through conversation. That's the essence of what I want to say that we're here for. And we've declared this possibility that over the 6 months from the previous solstice, June 20th, to the coming solstice, December 21st, we can gather in enlivening ways, moving at the speed of trust to abundantly resource the ecosystems of regenerative work with which we are entwined. And we're maybe 2/3 of the way through exploring this possibility together. And we said we're doing it in a way that's different from the usual pattern where you start with the funders start things off with a big pot of money and eventually find some things they want to give their money to. We're starting with the things we are connected to that we know and we love. And now we've come up with some ideas for how we want to distribute that money. This has been a collaborative and emergent process happening even right up to the moments before this festival. And we're ready now, getting ready to collaboratively gather and distribute funding. But we're still doing this too. It's all kind of happening together. It's not always so linear. But we have decided we want to do this fund share round 6, maybe even gathering as much as $50,000. We have a pledge of 5,000 already for this pool. And we're going to say that nodes, these resourcing ecosystem nodes, can apply for funding to support themselves and work out in the world with which they're in relationship. And we want to gather this money and form these nodes and decide how it's going to be shared among them and and then from there, they can decide from there how they share it out with the world. And do all of that by December 21st. It's jargony, this idea of a node. Says the pirate jargon. But it's also not really that complicated. It's just a small group of people who commit to being in relationship with one another for a little period of time, and maybe longer, but at least through the 21st of December. They're going to connect, and they already are connected with the domains of regenerative work they'd love to see be better resourced, whatever those are. It's up to them to decide. They're going to have a series of conversations about resourcing that with one another and with people they know. And as a community, CoFund-e-Co welcomes all the nodes that its members want to form. And we give them sovereignty. We say they get to define their own boundaries and their own processes. And then they get to request a share of this money that we're gathering now to support their work as a group and the calls for resourcing that they've formed to lift up. And so it kind of looks like this, except now the yellow star is inside here, that these nodes are connections to domains of work, and they catalyze or embody or help us to embody these resourcing ecosystems, right? But we're putting the star in the middle of our own community now and saying, we're going to model this. What does it look like? So in order for this to happen in a good way, we need a helping circle that's going to run the process. And we've invited people to be a part of that. We think up to 8 people. 3 of us so far have said they want to be a part of it. Maybe some of you want to put your name here to at least talk about what that might be. Somebody is highlighting this whole thing and making it look gray. That was me. And we want to resource this circle too. So if you're the people that do this work, will receive some support for that. And here is an example of nodes that we want to support through the fund share process. And these don't necessarily exist, but it's just to give you a sense of how many things we've already been identifying over the past year that we're in relationship with. Here are some things that didn't show up directly in our time together, but these are all beautiful projects that we have direct personal connections with and would love to see supported. Here's some that we're not even that closely connected with, but we know of and would love to see supported. Here are some that people who've showed up here are directly a part of. Dream Village that Kwaku has a request for funding of a master's degree coming from Wavinia. Mugisha Fred Mugarwa's Peace Foundation, Elias and Kosher's Grandmother's House Permaculture Training, Julius Kuwa's permaculture design course, Walt Ludwig's Quinta Valle de Lama Farm and Retreat Center, and the Tribes and Nature's Defenders Initiative in the Philippines that Midi has brought to our attention, that's doing such important work and struggling right now with challenges of earthquake and flooding and storms and mining interests that are making land grabs. And then some of the things we surfaced during our time together here. This is from our call yesterday from that resourcing harvest. And how much more is there that we might identify? Here are a few more things that came up yesterday. So how successful might we be in resourcing all of this and more, and learning from it and sharing what we learn and casting spores like a mycelial mat out into the world to say, look at what we can do. We just recognize that we are a forest because of all the relationships of trust that we've already created and the ones we can still create. If we can do that. So we have a request right here and now, actually, related to that, which is that we're gathering 2 pools of money. So there's the fund share round 6, which I already named. There's also fund share round 5, which is underway, and which we have currently $9,000 for, but we've gotten requests for more than that, quite a bit more. So we can meet the baseline level of those requests at about a 2/3 level. But if we could get another $4,000 or so, we could meet them at 100% level. And then there are desired requests that go beyond that too. And we've created a little form, and we want to invite people, if they're who are on this call or who are listening, to consider making a pledge. We don't have a place right now for you to put that money, but you could commit to offering something to one or both of the rounds, the fund share round 5, that resources the work of this festival and the work of this whole embodiment experiment that began in June and is continuing through the solstice. And also fund share round 6, we just looked at, moving money out through the nodes that we're going to form. And as little exactly, it can be, I think, any contribution is a beautiful gift and for us to tell the story of the number of people that contributed. And you can, part of the game here is also we might put money in and take money out, right? These flows go in multiple directions. But there's a little form. And I don't know, do we want to take some time now to let people just sit with that? The ones that are here on the call, Dita? Yeah, it doesn't take long. We're just looking for your name, and you can say if you want to pledge now or have a conversation. If you want to pledge now, oops, it's not working. Oh, you have to, I didn't put my email. I'm just, we made this right before the thing. I want to test it out. Gotta put my name in here. Yeah, let's do it. Let's pause, play a little bit of music, and you can think about it and sit with it. And yeah, we'll be back in 2 minutes or three.
So you might have already expressed what work you would like to have resourced, perhaps in the second round or more in general. But maybe something else has emerged, even if you have contributed to that on the Miro board. So we would love to just gather some of those things in the chat, which feels a bit easier. And if you want, we can also listen to one or two people, but let's maybe give preference to the chat so that people can write if they want to. Does that feel good, Ben? Anything that I'm missing? So what's the work you would like to have resourced? What's the work you would like to have resourced? Could be something of your own. It could be something that somebody else who you know is doing or would like to do.
If you want to speak to it too after you post it, that's
Hmm. Beautiful.
just read some of these, Dita?
Yeah. So Media and the Free Black Women's Library. Dita's grief pending. Fibershed Scotland working on shrouds, talking about and processing grief. Conversation in January about the next 30 years of the World Cafe. Ecological Learning Center construction. A fundraising festival for CoFund-e-Go. Community weaving processes in Africa. Crafts weaving. A collaborative enterprise to offer hybrid convening services to the networks we cherish. A node in East Africa. How can we resource those who are resourcing others? Oof. Beautiful, thank you. Would you like to hold the next question, Ben?
Would. I would. Guess where we're going now, yet again. So we have an invitation. In a way, this entire festival has been an extended form of invitation where what we've primarily focused on is the possibility that we can do this thing. We can move at the speed of trust, gather in enlivening ways, abundantly resource the ecosystems of regenerative work with which we're entwined. And to do that, we need this dense, thick, rich, lively mycelial mat that can produce all these mushrooms, all these flows of resources. And how do we do it? We do it through conversations. And the more in small groups, could be just one-on-one, could be 2 or 3 people, could be meeting for coffee in person, could be on Zoom, could be a little chat group, any way that you can connect in authentic dialogue and relationship. And there are 3 different kinds of conversations in particular that we think could be particularly valuable here. One is maybe you need to learn more about CoFund-e-Go, and maybe you want to invite others in to learn more about what we're doing too, because it's complicated and confusing, and we don't have a website or one little link that shows you everything in a clear and simple way. And maybe you want to have conversations about just to explore forming a node, right? Or maybe you're already ready to do it and you're going to dive in. And then there are the conversations to invite the resourcing to flow. We're going to practice some of those in the next hour. So what I'd love for you to do is go into the Miro board to this section. I'll drop a link in that'll take you right to here and pick stickies and put your name on it if you want to commit to having one or more conversations in any of these categories, or it could be something else. You could change the color of one of these or drop a new sticky in from over here if you wanted to. Here, we'll do a something else category. Make a few of those. And yeah, tell us how many you're committing to have at the minimum, perhaps. Um, and it's fine if there's no commitment right now.
Yeah.
This is an invitation. And if it's a real invitation, it's fine to say no. And we want to just name and acknowledge that your being here is already a gift, has already created the space for us to do what we're doing now and to do whatever we do with others going forward. And so there's nothing more that is required of you or of any of us for us to feel that this is enough. And there's a possibility that some of us are committed to exploring going forth. So here, that link will take you right into that part of the Miro board, I believe. Yeah, it looks like Dita's already grabbed it. No, maybe that's a different one.
It's close by.
Close by. Okay, good enough.
I
And
have a
if the
music
Miro,
to
again, as
play.
always, if the Miro isn't your jam, just put it in the chat. Okay. But don't just put your name. Say a little bit about how many conversations you're committing to have, because that gives us a sense of the potential here for this mycelial mat, which is already, I think, fairly dense, right? But the more conversations we have, the more threads of connection among us and out into the world we're creating. And the denser that weave is, the richer the fruiting of mushrooms, of resourcing mushrooms we can create. So we'll pause for another couple minutes for this, right?
You want the music, a little bit of music?
Yeah, you're ready for that, aren't you?
You realize it's 6 a.m. here, Ben.
Didn't seem to slow you down much, Suzanne. For those of you watching the video, we were just dancing to Rare Earth. I just want to celebrate. And I'm out of breath. Very disappointed we didn't get to see Ivy getting down. She told us once we were checking in on a Monday morning call. You know, we've been having Monday morning stewardship calls that are open to anyone who wants to be part of holding this whole thing together, along with Dita and Ivy and myself. And there have been many others flowing in and out of that circle over the 2.5 years that CoFund-e-Fest has been a community. Um, one morning, Ivy says she's really tired because at midnight she played a song and it just got her going, and she went up dancing for 3 hours straight from midnight to 3 a.m. You know, she has a little boy, Cam, who's 5 or 6, and you know, it's like she's saying, this is like the only time that's me time.
Oh,
So,
so good. It's
yeah,
a good way, a good reason to be tired, at least for
right.
me. Mm. So, should we keep on flowing? There's a poem coming, but a bit later, Wawinya.
Thank you. I have missed poetry. Here, poetry here.
Mm.
So, we wanted to do a little conversation, right? This idea of learning to call in the rain together. You know, in the commitments we just invited around conversations to have from now through the solstice, there's the one about inviting resourcing to flow, and that's going to be essential, right? To how abundantly that happens. We have some resourcing being committed, and we have so much beautiful work that we want to see supported. And as we've been saying throughout the festival, the idea is that what we think is possible is that these conversations that I think became clear yesterday are reciprocal. It's not just about asking for resourcing, it's also about offering it, right? For forming nodes, that's a form of an offer, for example, right? If it can be talk, but you know, what is it that you're doing that you'd love to see resource? And does that fit into anything that we're already gathering to resource? Or would you like to become a part of what we're doing to get a share of the pool that we're gathering together? And maybe there's some things we can also identify, you know, some set of offers collectively that we're making. I don't know. Anyway, you know, imagine that you're having a resourcing conversation with somebody that you know, that you're in relationship with, or maybe it's somebody who someone you know knows, but you don't know. Maybe it's the three of you, even. That would be lovely. Groups of 3, 4, beautiful size groups to get together for even as little as 20 minutes or a half hour, an hour on Zoom, or go out for coffee. Or maybe it's just a text thread, but you know, talking about what we're doing and asking people to be a part of this resourcing flow. by contributing something or asking for something. So you could, I don't know, Dita, you want to say more about sort of the conversation you want to invite us
Yeah.
to practice?
Yes. And I was wondering, just for sake of spaciousness, if instead of having it in threes as we first saw, we would have it in twos,
Mm-hmm.
so that people have more time to
Yeah.
So the invitation is just to connect for a moment, maybe with one particular project, one particular thing you love, and imagine you want to invite another person to help you, to bring in resources, which can be, like Ben said, of any kind. But maybe you have already something in mind. And the invitation from me, at least, is to maybe try the more challenging resource that you want to practice. So the invitation for the next few minutes is that you will be with somebody else and you will welcome Kimberly. Welcome, welcome. I'm sure you will flow like the queen of flow that you are. We are inviting a conversation where you can practice inviting someone to be part of a node or to just give you money, if that's the challenging part, in a way that, again, feels that it's not extractive. What is important for you? For me, that's important. I don't know if I made it more complicated than it's necessary. So again, the invitation is to connect with one of the things that are important for you. Let's just keep it simple.
It
Or
could be
not.
that, but maybe you're part of a node, and
It could be
maybe
part
you're
of a
just
node.
gathering resourcing for the
Yeah.
whole the CoFund-e-Co, this whole ecosystem of ecosystems. So whatever point of attachment, I think actually the best thing would be to say, start with one thing that you really cherish, but
Yeah.
connect it up to everything else. Say, yes, because this is the game, right? Is to say, I'm not a tree. I'm not just looking for nourishment for me and my roots. I want to resource the forest, right? So you can talk about the tree or the grove of trees that you're connected to, but also talk about how there's this forest and we're looking for support for it over the coming weeks, and how that forest can support you too, and this person you're talking with. Is that?
Thank you for the clarification. What I meant is that if you have like 5 different nodes you want to be part of, just choose one for this example, not like all of them. Maybe.
Or you
It's
can even say,
easier.
"Hey, I'm a part of 5 nodes. I'm so
Perfect.
entangled up in all this, and there's so many ways." But I think you're trying to find. It's a personal exchange, and so part of the point too. Here's the other thing I think is essential. We want the success of the conversation to be completely independent of whether anybody offers any money or wants to play in any way. That having the conversation itself just feels good. That it's an expression of care and of your connection to this person or your desire to be connected to this person or your care for the person who connected you, maybe something along those lines, right? Okay.
I think we'll have about 5 minutes each. Does that feel good?
Yeah. So why I'm seeing there's 7 of us. There's 8 of us. It's
Yeah.
not assigned. Quite good.
You're
Okay.
muted, Kate. You're still muted, Kate.
I'm obsessed with Kwaku driving. I'm thinking him being part of a conversation whilst
He
driving.
said if he needs to
We'll
speak.
see if he can or not. I'll try to join Kwaku. So we've got Helen and Kim, Dita and Lavinia, Kate and Suzanne. Okay. And we're going to go for how long?
10 minutes? 5
10
minutes?
minutes. So 5 minutes each to just practice and try it out. And then we'll come back here and we'll talk about what did we learn. And the idea is, we're going to keep learning about this and, through the solstice and then, also after that, from the whole thing. Good. Any questions? Ready to try it out? Play. Have it be fun. Make it as playful and delightful as you can, right? Just embody the joy of being connected.
Or not.
Yeah, I don't know.
Your time. Go for it.
I gotta click, there we go, open all rooms. All right, here we go.
Thank you, Zelda. Oh, did we lose Scooter?
Yeah, he was coming and going. And John, I'm not sure which John. Is that your John? Popped in. I noticed
I haven't
belatedly
seen
that
him this morning.
someone was in the main room and I didn't grab them in time to put him in a breakout. So, shall we talk about what just happened? What did you learn from doing that? Uh,
I played, and here's CoFund-e-Co, been around for a few years, and here I am. And I had my temper tantrum, and I told my feelings, and I got hugged, and I listened.
I learned that one, the way Wawinya brought in the conversation was so skillful, kind of bringing me in through an example of what the node is about, which caught me also by surprise and really pulled me in. And that's something I want to remember.
You make me really curious. I'd love to know more. What was there?
I don't know if I am allowed to share.
Yes.
All right. So it's a node about bringing play and the spaces to play to people who don't have usually time, like for adults that, are so busy that don't have enough time or don't have the spaces where we can just be playful. And instead of presenting that, she just asked me, what is the last time you played and how do you feel when you play? And just bringing that spirit into, oh, I'm excited about this. And then she told me about the node and I was in already. And it was just so good.
We are all now joining that node.
Go, Wavinia.
But I did learn something also. By just existing, you inspire other nodes in ways you don't realize. The excitement and the joy I receive in CoFund-e-Co is the excitement and joy I walk around with, and everyone thinks, oh, she's just a happy girl. But it's the fact that I am in touch with you and you are in your natural existence so much that it just inspires me to be a resourceful person, not just when it comes to money, but in terms of how I'm sharing my joy and my laughter and my time, because I get the gift of your time. So I get generous with my gift. Thank you, Dita.
Vinya on the Miro board committed to having at least 10 conversations, I believe, to gather resourcing. Yeah, virtually and in person.
Fingers crossed.
Thank you.
I think I'm learning as we go along, the playing that Helen brought in, allowed us to look at something hold it in a different way, whatever the conversation is. And then Lavinia, mentioning a node on that just makes it, and play is another theme that's come up a lot. And really to like spur new insight. So hearing the excitement and the joy, and also ability to respond, the responsibility. There's something that's like driving me in that, just being in the conversations with Fred, Clement, Kuta, different people. There is like an invitation to bring people in to not only for the excitement and joy, which it is wonderful, and the interconnection, but with a sense of timing, a sense of responsibility. That's what's kind of alive in me right now. Thank you for these conversations.
Well, Kate and I did a very deep dive very quickly. Sorry, am I being heard or am I muted?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. Kate and I did a very deep dive in the 10 minutes that we had on multiculturalism, and it started when she mentioned she was in Scotland, and I was talking about my knowing that I have that I have a lot of cultural, ancestral, lineage in Scotland and in Wales and that general area. But anyway, it was really beautiful because we talked a lot about how all of these different cultures and all these different, and then all the different classes that are always happen in the different cultures, keep us apart, basically, and how beautiful it is to be able to reach across those different ideas about it. And then we're talking about the educational system, the teachers, and how when you get an education that you have to pay for, and all the things that brings with it, and again, the divisions, and how just along those lines that, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Suzanne. I really enjoyed our conversation. And part of what I think the takeaway for me was something that was on the map from yesterday, about really listening to whoever you're talking about. What are they interested in? What are the kinds of things that they might want to have resourced, rather than going into a conversation with your really clear idea? Maybe putting that in the background a little bit, and listening first and foremost. And I think in the end, Suzanne, or not in the end, we quite quickly came to really shared interests, and how that might unfold from there, beyond 10 minutes. It could take us to nodes. It could take us in a number of different directions.
Yeah. What if these conversations began with, here are the gifts we have to offer you, before we ask for what you might give to us? And then, of course, the third part is, you want to become part of us, one of us. You can give to us, but you can also be us and play the whole game.
Yeah. And I just want to throw in that this brought up for me the idea of really listening to people, letting them say who they are, before we jump in and say who we are, when they're more able to listen because they've been heard. I was reminded of, during the Occupy movement, I was on a call, and this one young man talked for 45 minutes before I got a chance to say anything back, and it was beautiful.
Amazing, Suzanne, that you had the patience to listen to that 5 minutes and didn't interrupt. That's a superpower. Oh, I
Mm.
that one of the distinctions we're trying to make here is to have these conversations be a form of invitation rather than selling, rather than persuasion. So how do we talk about the work that we'd love to see resourced without pitching it, without getting into sort of presentation mode and trying to paint the prettiest possible picture we can as opposed to the most authentic picture? This invitation includes a whole lot of we don't know. We're just learning. As much as anything, we're asking people to support a living system that is learning and growing and sharing what it's learning.
One of the other things that Suzanne and I talked about was nonviolent communication and recognizing need. And it took us back to the cascade of needs and what is masking what. And that just reminded me when you said that, listening to somebody for 45 minutes, they really need to have the space to unburden themselves. And if you do try and cut somebody off when their needs are unmet, then the conversation is not going to go very far. So maybe it takes more time, but in the end, you finish up in a better place than you might otherwise be.
I've been gathering some of those thoughts into stickers on the Miro board. Slightly holding the beautiful flow of time. So I want to check with Ben if we want to give more time to this and skip some of the things that are coming, or...
Well, how is there more anyone wants to share? Feel a burning desire? I mean, we're going into an extended period of weeks where we're going to learn how to do this together and practice, for real. Maybe we have some more sessions to practice. I don't know. It's a time of self-organizing more than scheduled calls. We do have node lab calls scheduled, one tomorrow and one Thursday next week. We have mapping cafes because part of what we're going to be asking for nodes and is to put themselves on the map. So there's a little bit of technology to navigate there, and our commitment, our promise is to support you in doing that, to make that as painless and non-extractive a process as possible. There's the calendar, but so much of what's going to happen is in these smaller conversations, conversation to learn more, a conversation about, forming a particular node with people that might be interested. Because we are right now saying you need 3 people who want to be part of your node or members of the community. So that we follow this pattern of working together at all these different levels. So you might be having conversations to invite people, or with those people to say, okay, we want to form a node. What's it going to look like? What's the boundary around this node? What are we forming to serve? How much are we going to meet? Who are we going to talk to invite resourcing in? Things like that. But it'll be a lot of self-organizing more than sort of these kinds of large group calls scheduled. Well, I'm sure we'll do both. Oh, another kind of call that we want to have that will be large group calls, sort of open invitations, is to celebrate any particular call for resourcing that anyone is making who's part of the community. So if you've got a project or you're connected to a project that a friend is doing, family member, somebody, and you want to have a call just to tell us about that and highlight it and have us lift it up and love you for sharing it with us. It's not a pitch. We all assume we're already sold. We already want to resource it, but we just want to learn more and find out more about what you need. So that's something anybody can put on the calendar, and there's a simple link to let you put something on. And again, we can help you with that. Welcome, Anelika. We're at the very end of our ceremony here.
Yeah. You come as we move towards gifts. So I take that as a sign that you are a gift for us. What a beautiful thing to receive. Not that you're a thing. What a beautiful element of the ecosystem to receive.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Now that we have experienced being quiet and seeing the joy and benefit of letting someone else tell us where they're at, I want to make a comment about the storytelling and participation. When we mentioned NV's nonviolent communication, there's a tremendous emphasis on saying back what we heard so that the person speaking can discover whether they said what they wanted to say and were heard the way they wanted to be heard. And that, of course, is a huge time investment that we have to maybe not have all the time. But that's one thing I wanted to honor is the time for hearing, reflecting, did I understand you? And we could use that, we could use chat or transcript to help us have that happen more. The other thing is, I have an ignorant, idealized idea that when I found my African brothers and sisters, they would honor interruption. They would stop and say, "What did you hear? This is what I heard. Are you with me? Yes, I'm with you." Um, and also my own Jewish brothers and sisters, we come from a tradition of interrupting as if we were making jazz. We didn't have to get the intellectual part of it at all. We just had to be in the vibe and in the resonance. So I'll talk while you talk so that we all amplify the emotion that we want to amplify. So interrupting, asking questions, stopping. Um, I just wanted you to know that that's as good as being quiet and listening sometimes for me.
Thank you, Helen.
Oh,
So, what I hear, Helen, if I may, is
I was
that
hoping someone would say something back.
I'm going to try, if you let me. What I hear is that you appreciate when you get feedback about what you said, and perhaps you would also like to give feedback to people that you've listened. And I really appreciate that. I also want to say that for me, that's not always something that calms my nervous system. So actually, sometimes the first time I met Suzanne, it was in a NVC conversation, and she started telling me what I just said, and I was just, oh my God, I can't stand this. Can I be friends with this person? And of course I could. Of course I could. But I had to get over that. So also acknowledging the differences in cultures. But I really appreciate that you speak up for that, and that I hope we find ways of allowing for that to happen. I am looking for ways in how to add transcripts as subtitles for the YouTube videos. And I hope that will be dealt with soon. And I'm not going to reflect everything you said back, because I do want to end the call more or less on time.
Yeah. Can I just add one thing into that, which is that I think this is where the power of being in a small group really shows up. We have much more complexity in managing a conversation when there's more than 4 or 5 of us at most. And a lot of what we're inviting in with this series of conversations now is inspired by the World Cafe process, where you can have dozens, even hundreds or thousands of individual tables of people speaking. And but they're all in small groups and they don't need a facilitator. They can find their way together if they have enough time and a good question and a good context that they share.
Right. All that will continue. But now we turn towards gifts. And to invite that spirit, I am going to share this poem by W.S. Merwin call simply gifts. I have to trust what was given to me if I am to trust anything. I have to trust what was given to me if I am to trust anything. It led the stars over the shadowless mountain. What does it not remember in its night and silence? What does it not hope, knowing itself no child of time? What did it not begin? What will it not end? I have to hold it up in my hands as my ribs hold up my heart. I have to let it open its wings and fly among the gifts of the unknown. Again in the mountain, I have to turn to the morning. I must be led by what was given to me, as streams are led by it, and braiding flights of birds, the gropings of veins, the learnings of plants, the thankful days, breath by breath. I call to it, nameless one, oh invisible, untouchable, free. I am nameless, I am divided, I am invisible, I am untouchable and empty. Nomad, live with me. Be my eyes, my tongue and my hands, my sleep and my rising. Out of chaos, come and be given. Be my eyes, my tongue and my hands, my sleep and my rising. Out of chaos, come and be given. And with that, we want to invite a round of just maybe dropping in one gift that you received from this conversation, from this gathering, and
The whole festival too, right?
the whole festival.
But name one thing at a time, and let's just hear as many voices as we can and hear from people once before we hear from somebody twice. See where we go.
I want to celebrate the gift of Mugisha Freth's amazing stories and wisdom.
Say a little bit more?
No.
I love the way
wanted
his...
to
Go ahead,
go
Wendy.
on.
All right. I was just going to say, I love the way Mugisha Fred's face comes in and out of the picture when he has that grass background and he just disappears into the grass and then mysteriously pops in.
Now you've confused me because I thought of something else. I was gonna say, I appreciate the gift of your time and your existence. It's your time and your existence that has made this festival happen generally, and it's what I've had the privilege of experiencing and learning from. But I also did love the river, like a lot. I I appreciated experiencing the river and the unfortunate music. Yeah.
I really loved the dancing, even though it was very early for me. Because I really appreciate how we know how to celebrate, how we always include celebration in everything. It's so important. We can be very intense and deep and emotional, and then we always know how to celebrate as well.
I'd like to say I really appreciate getting to know you, Douglas, over several calls over the course of the festival. I've not met you before, but it seems like you've been able to slip into our stream very easily, and that's lovely to feel.
And I was going to say, I appreciate Sangha family. When I first came in late, just a bit ago, I felt like I was coming to the family table. I could sit down. I didn't have to say anything. I felt welcome. I felt this, yeah, this is heart stuff, when you talk about listening. So the gift that I get out of this is just feeling that this is a family that we can communicate with each other from the heart. We've got a lot to offer each other and the community, etc., the species. So it's good to be here. Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. It meant a lot.
And adding to that, I'm excited that I'm with people I have known in many other places and times, some for a very long time, to able to include people I've never met before and haven't even heard from. And it's very exciting to me to have this people in one place at one time from so many different parts of my life.
I want to acknowledge all of you for continuing and keeping the vision in mind. And from the 20 minutes that I participated in this call, I would like to acknowledge Helen for speaking up as the elder that she is and bringing in cultural differences, to which I actually relate because my family-in-law is like this. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I want to thank you all for the gift of trust, of making trust visible in all its different forms and different word meanings. Helen and I, that was part of our conversation this morning. And also the line that stood out for me, thank you, Dita, for reading the poem, was I must be led by what was given to me. Is very resonant right now. And I'm thinking of the conversations here of people speaking about life in general. So thank you for that. I still have some kind of fire that's inside me right now. Just calm.
Thank you, Dita, for those wonderful morning meditations and for the magic of having you offer them from so many different places. Like, right. And I know, I mean, for you to just show up and do this while you were engaged in moving yourself, and not feeling particularly well in the beginning too. I know you really put out so much on our behalf. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I want to thank the serendipity of how things really showed up in those meditations that had a lot to do with, it was the land and the space speaking to exactly what was happening. So particularly when I was in Paris, I didn't know, but as I was starting the meditation, behind me, there was I don't know how you call it, the Heilsarmee, giving food to people, to homeless people. And it just felt like, wow, this is what I'm talking about. And it's just here. So the universe, I want to thank the universe for this. And everybody in the stewardship hosting team is showing up and doing different things. And everybody who's coming to these calls, I've learned so much. They are truly regenerative for me. And also sometimes too much. So also grateful that we have a team and it's not just one person. Thank you, Van, for making things so fun to do, to organize and share breakfast. Well, are we ready for celebration? We haven't heard Kwaku, but I don't know if you are. There you are. Woohoo!
Hello. I'm celebrating the fact that we are alive. and everyone, one way or the other, is well. And even if you are not, you are here, and your presence is worth it. Celebrating the gift of life that we are all enjoying. And my gift to everyone is that you continue to live in the abundance of your limitations, and that we will continue to shine as we continue to build this wonderful environment. So thank you also for Helen, particularly for sharing that story with me, and that continue to have this in mind, celebrating the unknown heroes of our time, and sometimes the silent voices as well. So I hear you, and thank you all for being you.
Oh, sorry. We have something to do before we go into the celebration. And I'm going to do it quick. I don't like doing this quick, but it doesn't matter. We started our festival by calling in support from different directions, different elements. So I just want to, in my own lineage, we have the tradition of just letting them know that we're done. We're done with the festival. So I just want to let all those things that we called in, the 7 directions and more, all the directions that led us here, all the elements that make this earth and us as part of it, that make the whole universe, all the teachings, the ancestors, the elders, whether they are of our own DNA or different, all the trees, the little creatures, the big creatures, the rocks, the soil, the water, the winds, the farts, the hearts, the blood, all that is here supporting us, the spirits within, the spirits without, the earth, the sense of belonging, the sense of solidity and fluidity, all those energies that have been with us throughout this festival. I just want to let you know we're done for now. I'm sure I will be calling you once more, but have a rest, have a good regenerative rest. And thank you for being with us. Thank you for guiding us. And may the spaces that we build together bring regeneration and peace to all beings. Woo! Let's celebrate!
It's the music you wanted, Dita?
Right?
Yeah.
I'll put the lyrics. Thank you.